This is an instructional video that shows you how to construct an EduMIP robot with the BeagleBone Blue. What's balancing here is the final product, what we'll have when we get it done here. You can see the beagle bones here, and then the various parts are assembled around that. When you open up the kit, the EduMIP kit, here's what you'll find in it. The power supply, various parts for assembling around the robot, the battery, the wheels, and then the motor assembly. There's some sets of wires here. The top ones here are for the encoders. The bottom ones are for the two motors. Turns out there's extra one of each of those that we don't need. There's some other parts here that aren't used for this kit. We can set those aside. There's a number of screws that are needed. The largest ones go with the wheels. There's a intermediate size and a smaller pair that you need, but these others aren't needed for this particular kit. However, we do need an extra set of these middle-sized ones, which you have to supply from somewhere. The first part of this is to assemble the motor assembly, and inside here's a connector where these wires need to attach to. But unfortunately, to get to that, you have to disassemble it. So let's do that. There are 4 screws that need to be removed for each motor. And my suggestion here is to remove those screws. Keep track of them. It's very easy to have them get stuck to the motor and be hard to find. But here's our motor and encoder assembly. And what we need to do is attach the wires on here, attaching the red to where the plus is and the black to the minus. The way I like to do this is the wires come pre-tinned. What you need to do, I like to do, is to bend them out away from each other like that. Check and double check so you know where the plus is, and then with a little finesse you can put that in, and then I get my nail into there, bend that back. My father taught me is you always get a good mechanical connection before you solder it. And do the same on this side. And I've found, using the power supply box, you can stick this in the edge and it makes a nice third hand. Grab some solder and a soldering iron, and then tin your soldering iron a little bit. Get both the wire and the tab hot, and then once they're warm it'll suck that solder right in there. Looks like that'll work. And put it back together. Rotate it around and repeat the process. Good check is that the red wires will both be on top. The black wires on top, you've got them reversed and it won't balance if you have the motors going in the wrong direction. Now the hardest part of the assembly is done, at least the part I think is the hardest. Next thing you need to do is get yourself a BeagleBone Blue, and then we're going to hook these on it, and the part that holds the battery. you want to get these middle-sized screws to do the holding, and make sure you have this turned the right way. Well, let me demonstrate the right way. A little bit tricky pulling that through like that, but that should work. And go for that middle screw. Screw that on there. So it's starting to take shape. Now we need to work with this part, and there's one modification we have to make. This tab will interfere with one of the components on the board, and so a simple solution to that is to cut it off. I like to come in from this side and just snap it off. Then we'll attach the motor assembly to it. So put the motors on the inside. There's a tab up here that goes up. You see there's no tab on the bottom here. Now before we do that, let's attach the encoders. They only fit one way, and that's with the yellow farthest from me. Well, I'm looking at the wrong part. The yellow is closest to me. Try the same thing on this one. Fortunately, they're symmetric. And then what has to happen is the wires from below have to come through and cross and come out this way. And you take this piece and put it on there, and that's where we'll use these additional medium-sized screws that we've gotten and screw it down. We have all of that. Now you take the two smallest screws and put them through here. But there's one critical thing you don't want to forget, is put the battery in. It fits underneath here, and you want the wires coming out like this. Now I screw this down. If you ever have to pull the battery out, the easiest way is to remove the screws on this end rather than the ones that have the other arms on it there. Now, one of the reasons I like to keep built one over here is I can look and go, oh, this one short motor wire goes first, red on the right. Next one, red on the right. The trickiest one is getting this encoder one. I find a little bend with the pliers helps get it lined up. And this one goes the same direction, like that. And then what I'm going to do is take the SD card out of my other robot, stick it in here, and while I put the wheels on, we'll let this boot up. Snug that in. That green light's on, it means it's ready to balance. And look at that, first try. And there's how you build the EduMIP robot with the BeagleBone Blue. And that's it.